from the Compliance Kitchen. This is Silvia, and Happy New Year, everybody. I am hoping to be back on a weekly basis to share some updates with you on what is currently cooking in the compliance world, and select some items that I found helpful in my practice and share those with you guys. So I'm just going to jump right in. OFAC, I'm sure you've been following the developments with sanctions, especially as concerned the Russia war on Ukraine. And on December 30th, the OFAC team issued a preliminary guidance to discuss implementing price cap policy for products that are made out of Russian petroleum. So a little bit of background. If you recall, in November of last year, November 22nd actually, OFAC issued a guidance on implementation of the price cap policy for crude oil of Russian Federation origin. And so this was after the US, the G7, the EU, and Australia agreed to put a price cap on crude oil that is of Russian origin. Of course, this all has to do with putting more pressure on the Russian Federation in relation to the Ukraine war. So OFAC issued guidance on this. This was only concerning the Russian crude oil. And now on December 30th, OFAC came back and said, we are going to expand this price cap policy on Russian origin petroleum products and also related services. So we're going from just covering the Russian crude oil to also Russian origin petroleum products and related services. So that's what we're looking at. And the preliminary guidance is what it is. It's a preliminary guidance. It is available on OFAC's website if you want to take a look. It's a short document at this point. OFAC tells us in the preliminary guidance that they expect to take a similar approach for the Russian petroleum products and services as they have done for the Russian crude oil in November. And they are preparing to publish a final combined guidance for both the Russian oil and the Russian petroleum products. And this should be happening before February 5th, because that's when this policy will come into effect, the one on the Russian petroleum products and services. Now, OFAC does tell us in the preliminary guidance that if you're looking for a specific issue and it's not addressed in the preliminary guidance, then you should refer back to the November 22nd, 22 OFAC guidance, which was the one that was talking about the Russian crude oil. In order to implement the price cap policy for the Russian petroleum products, they intend to issue, in consultation with the Secretary of State, of course, a determination, as they did in implementing the price cap policy for the Russian crude oil. And the petroleum products determination should be covering the same categories of services as the Russian crude oil determination. And again, will take effect on February 5th, 2023. And as with the crude oil determination, OFAC anticipates issuing a separate determination to set the price cap for the Russian origin petroleum products. They're also anticipating that they will amend General Licenses 56 and 57, and they anticipate that petroleum products that are loaded on a vessel prior to the February 5th and unloaded at destination prior to April 1 will not be subject to the petroleum products determination. They also refer us to frequently asked question 1109, if you want to take a look at that one. And so as a result, it looks like the US service providers can continue to provide covered services with respect to the Russian petroleum products purchased at any price, as long as they are loaded onto a vessel before the February 5th deadline and unloaded before April 1, 2023. There's, of course, a little bit more to this. If you want to take a look at the preliminary guidance, again, this is available to you on OFAC's website. It gets into, there's a de minimis rule and blending operations. By the way, blending, they don't consider blending to be, to amount to substantial transformation for purposes of determining whether the crude oil policy applies to the cargo or not. So again, we are expecting to get a more complete guidance. In fact, they're promising a combined guidance before February 5th. So we'll be looking for that. And then I will come back and take a look at that guidance for you guys once that's out there. Okay, jumping over to, let's go to the UK. If you are doing business there, if you're exporting, using any export licenses that are issued by the UK's Export Control Joint Unit, or ECJU, they published, this was end of December when they published this. This is a compliance code of practice for export licensing. So this is to help exporters build their programs, and that should assist them to meet their license obligations and also hopefully successfully pass any compliance audits that arise out of them using the export licenses that are issued by the ECJU. And this would include OGELs, the Open General Export Licenses, as well as open individual export licenses, individual trade control licenses, standard trade control and export licenses, general trade licenses, as well as technical assistance licenses. Now, as far as the legal status of this code, this is a guidance. It's a practice guidance, so it's voluntary. However, anybody who uses these licenses is subject to audit, and according to ECJU, your audit should go a whole lot better if you can demonstrate that you have a program that is based on this code that they issued, and you can demonstrate this to your compliance inspector who would be visiting and doing your audit. So they provided, I thought it was pretty well done. They provided some helpful checklists and case studies. The code discusses commitment to compliance, nominating responsible personnel within your organization, informing and training your staff, showing your commitment to the applicable compliance standards and procedures. It also discusses handling suspicious inquiries or orders, and what the red flags should be for you, indicators of suspicious activity, and so forth. So again, this is something that I thought was good, and I thought I would share it with you guys. This is, again, if you go to the UK's Export Control Joint Unit, it is on their website. So if you are doing business in the UK, you may want to take a look at that. So that's it for today. I am glad that you stopped by, and hopefully we'll be talking at you next week.